Molweni Makaya, it's a Sunday afternoon and it means only one thing, a date with greatness here on Women in Sport Africa. And today, it's no different. Our guest is Sibabalwe Sesmani, the Group CEO of Unorthodox Group, and we get to understand her journey and her work in the world of PR, marketing and sponsorship. CEO and founder of Unorthodox Group, Sesmani, thank you so much for chatting to us this afternoon. Let's start with your early life. I think I have an idea what kind of girl you were growing up, but please indulge us and tell us, where did you grow up first and what was that like? What was home like for you?
So I grew up in what's the second largest township in South Africa, in Tanzania, in the Eastern Cape. It was fun. It was really fun because I got, I think, the best of both worlds. You know, going to a Model C school, but also uhlala elokishini.
Yes.
So it makes you like such a relatable person as well. And the characters that you meet as well growing up, and then totally different characters for the people that you meet at school. So childhood was really fun. I don't want to lie. We still had it good, playing in the streets, no phones, our parents not knowing where we are for hours, but trusting that we're going to be back home because when the street lights come on, you need to run home. Time. So it was fun.
Yes.
Really had an amazing, happy childhood.
Did you also feel like there's just that level of adjusting, or was it automatic for you to know how to, it's code switching, that's what we call it these
code
days.
Switching,
yes, code switching. In your school transport, you're going to school, you know, at school as we became accustomed to, the teachers didn't allow your languages in the playing field. But at the same time, then when you come back, you code switch again because you don't want to be called the coconuts.
Yes. I think there were some parts where it was hard. Because I did go, before going to, you know, the Model C schools, what we call the Model C schools now, I went to a school in the township first. And the dynamics are so different because in the schools in the township, there's 50 of us in a classroom. And then you go to a Model C school where there's 15 of you. So I remember actually my first day, I was looking around like, where's everyone else? Also just, you know, it says a lot about our schooling system, and I'm not trying to say that all schools in the township are the same, but there was so much care. There was a lot of patience. And I wasn't used to it because the school that I went to, there wasn't that care. There wasn't that patience. But I can also imagine the teachers are overwhelmed. You've got 50 kids. In a classroom. But one of the things my mom said, she said, you know, when you walk through my gate, you leave the English at the gate. When you're in my house, we speak Xhosa. And then you go to a Model C school where you're told that your language is foreign.
Stays at the gate.
Yeah.
Sure. But nonetheless, describing what home looked like. So you've mentioned your mom. Do you have siblings? And what was the dynamic where that is concerned?
So I'm the youngest of three. Grew up in a household with a mom and a dad. They are still very happily married 40-something plus years later.
Sure, inspirational.
Yeah, my mom still calls my dad the love of her life. In her, I think she's 69 years old now. Yeah. So very, very warm family. A family, I think, that allowed me to do what I wanted to do. Never once was I boxed in, or there was a certain expectation for me to grow up and get into a certain type of industry. I think my parents trusted how they raised us. And they gave us a lot of freedom to then be able to chart our own journey when it comes to careers.
Yes.
So it was really, it's great. It's great. The family dynamics really molded me into, I think, what I've now built.
So then looking at exposure at the time in Tanzania, what are you watching in terms of sport, and when does the idea form that perhaps maybe in future I could find a career in sport?
Oh, that idea, it definitely didn't form in childhood, but I remember that we had always been exposed to sport. So growing up,
that's typical of the Eastern Cape, cricket, rugby from a young age.
Right? Because growing up, I remember when I was really, really young, I probably was like 4 or 5 or 6. But there was quite a lot of boxing that would happen. So we lived not too far from an open field. So they tried to do these boxing festivals. I remember those, and it was so fun and it was exciting, and we loved it as kids because there was boxing happening. I think at the time the biggest boxer was Welcome Nita, if I'm not mistaken, and meeting him and fanning over him. there was quite a lot of sport in the, as you're saying, in the Eastern Cape. And then also now going to these Model C schools where you have to play sports. You can't not play sports. So your Saturdays are filled with netball, or you've got hockey, or actually even girls cricket. I played in the girls cricket team at some point.
Yes.
So there was always that sport, but never did I think that I'd actually go into the business of sport.
At all?
At all.
So then completing your high school and going into tertiary, what did you study?
Completing high school into varsity. In university, I did a BCom in economics and econometrics. And then in high school, when it comes to grade 10, where you select your subjects, I did physics, pure maths, business.
All the tough ones.
So those are my subjects in high school. And then I went into economics and econometrics. Not for the love of it, really. I closed my eyes and I went eeny, meeny, miny, moe, landed on that, and that's what I did, because I did not know where I wanted to go, or what direction I wanted to go in.
And I mean, going back to Khulelekazi, because I was also telling the same story that in my head, there was never that person that I was looking at from my immediate home or surroundings, apart from your typical doctors and your lawyers. But when you're looking at other careers like an architect, even broadcasting, there were never really people that you could see and think, okay, Mamus Banbani, just 2 houses away, is doing this, and one day I'd like to do that. There was never that exposure per se.
I mean, we look up to our parents, right, because they're such amazing people. But from a career perspective, I don't remember seeing anyone in my neighborhood and thinking, oh, she's doing amazing or he's doing amazing. I would like to go into that career, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
So I think growing up, especially with our era and in Lokshini, there weren't really a lot of role models in our immediate neighborhoods to really look up to. So it was just about, then going to a different school, moving away from the Eastern Cape, becoming more exposed, as you were highlighting. And then I think that's when you see different careers, different people, your mind opens up, and then you actually realize that there's so much more that's out there that you haven't even thought about or tapped into.
Yes, there's a whole world. And our guest today is Sibabalwe Sesmani, CEO and founder of Unorthodox Group. So we've established that Uphume Mdantsane, so that we know the influences and where they come from. So when we get back, we get into Unorthodox and the work that it does, and what inspires Usiba, what gets her going. It's the Women in Sport Africa. We're coming back after the break. Welcome back to WISA, Women in Sport Africa, a show that shines the spotlights on women in sport across the continent and certainly here in South Africa. And one of them is Usiba Sesmani, and a trailblazer of note. Siba, so now you're in varsity, and we've spoken about growing up Igasi and the dynamics that come with that. Varsity is a whole new ball game in the context of being South African, in the context of being a girl Igasi, where, again, due to the lack of exposure to multiple careers and possibilities. You slap dash bang in varsity. Where is this institution? You said you did a mini mo. Is that working out?
So first and foremost, my dad actually wanted me to go to Rhodes and stay in the Eastern Cape. I didn't say it to him, but in my head, I knew that there was no way I'm staying in the Eastern Cape. I love the Eastern Cape. That's where I grew up. It is home, but I needed a challenge. I needed to learn a different terrain and be in a different environment. So I went to the University of Johannesburg in Auckland Park, and I had the time of my life. Okay. I loved university. I loved the independence. And, it's small things that we don't think about, that now you're living in Auckland Park, you're actually living in the suburbs. And that's such a different dynamic on its own, coming from living Igasi. But it was just, it worked out well. I think I've always been a fiercely independent person, so the adjustment was there. But I knew that I was there for school.
Okay.
I knew that I absolutely had to pass because money is tight at home. So there is no money to do second year 5 times. We're only doing this once, and I graduated in 3 years record time, and I got my qualification.
So this is in economics and
econometrics.
Yes. Okay. So economics and econometrics. Now PR and marketing and sponsorship. How do we then get there?
So in my last year, I was actually approached by a tobacco company to be an informal marketer. That was the role at the time. So because of our laws in South Africa around tobacco, you can't advertise. So we had to find creative ways to reach our target audience.
Yeah.
So it was being in spaces where there are a lot of people, going to a lot of events, but we were actually gathering consumer insights because we had to interact with people and every Tuesday submit a report. So I fell in love with interacting with people, studying consumer behavior and actually how to sway a consumer to buy a certain service or product, which is basically what PR is. But at the time, I did not know what it was. So I was at this tobacco company, which was my first job for 9 months. I absolutely loved it. I loved interacting with people. And instead of going straight into, an economics sort of job or role, because I was offered a role, I turned it down and I said, I'll always have my qualification. Let me try this because this is actually exciting to me.
Yeah.
And let's see how far I can get into it. So after that, I got a job at a company for 3 months in sales, but within sales, I always leaned towards media. And, PR and sales are completely different things, even though some companies think it's the same thing. No.
Yeah.
So within that, I was always leaning towards media. Instead of cold calling people for a product that our company offered, I wanted to PR the company, brand awareness. So I was always fighting with my boss to say, if you do the PR of the product or service that we had at the time, if you do the PR for the company, the customers will come. So we don't have to code call. I hated code calling. So I didn't last there after 3 months.
Because you knew too much.
I was like, I can't be fighting with my boss every day.
Yeah.
So I went elsewhere for a month. And that's actually where I found my first client in my new job that I'd been in for a month, where again, it was the same thing. It was such an amazing space. It was a co-working space actually for entrepreneurs. And at the time, as an entrepreneur, you'd pay 1,500 Rand to have an office space, to have a receptionist, to have printing. That is such a big deal. It's such a good price for an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And the space in itself was so beautiful. It was Google-like offices, so very bright. There were balls. It was in a stiff environment. So I remember chatting to one of the managers at the office, not knowing that he actually owns the space that we're in, saying, why don't more entrepreneurs know about this? Why don't you do more brand awareness, more brand positioning? And then he looks at me and he says, can you help us with that? And I said, I could try. I've never done it formally, but if you want to take a chance, sure. It was on a Friday. And then he says, on Monday, let's have a meeting where you can give me a proposal. Monday came 2 hours before the meeting. I was Googling a template on how do you put a proposal together. That's what I put on Google.
Wow.
Because I didn't know anything 2 hours before the meeting. We went into the meeting and they said, okay, let's try it out. How's about you draft a service level agreement for us? And I said, sure, I can do that.
Go back to Google.
No, I wish we had ChatGPT back in the day.
Actually, because your life would have been lots easier.
Oh, it would have been a lot easier, Go back to Google, service level agreement template, and they signed it, and that was our first client. And for 7 years, we did not pitch for business because that first client kept on referring us to their network. And their network kept on referring us to their network.
And it just grew from there
on. And it just grew from there. And I think also we are very transparent with our clients to say that, listen, I haven't been doing this for a long time, but I think this is what your company needs for your product or your service, and we can assist. But just know that we are both learning as we go.
Yes.
Because also public relations 10 years ago, I would say, wasn't as big as it is today. And there wasn't a good enough understanding as we have today. So that's literally how Unorthodox Group started.
I want to go back to the start of Unorthodox Group, and that's I want to also go back to when I met you the first time and my impressions. Her name is Sibabalwe Sesmani, and she's incredible in what she does, as you can already tell. And when we come back, I'll tell you my first experience of meeting with Siba. And welcome back to Women in Sport Africa. Our guest this afternoon is Sibabalwe Sesmani, a powerhouse in the space of PR. And let me tell you about the first interaction when I saw you. I remember it was at the public broadcaster.
Yes.
And when you left, firstly I was like, okay, this young lady, she's so young, but she's so accomplished, which is amazing to see. And afterwards I questioned, am I doing enough in this life thing? Because girls are thriving out there. And that's the impression I've had of you. Mind you, I was only getting to know Unorthodox Group at the time. So you've told us about the birth of Unorthodox. But I want to ask you, before we continue with that, you seem to have learned confidence from a young age. Is there something in your childhood or your upbringing where you can say, my parents, my siblings taught me ABC for me to be able to step into any situation, as you did, to land the beginning of Unorthodox?
I used to do beauty pageants. So I'm the youngest of 3. And I think my mom wanted a doll, honestly, because I never had normal clothes. I felt like I was always in costume. All my dresses were just so out
Over
there.
the top, yeah.
So for her, the next step was for me to get into beauty pageants. And I did beauty pageants. Interestingly enough, in 1998, I was Miss Tinkerbell. And there was an Edgar's range called Planet E. I don't know if you remember, I'm revealing my age now. And I was actually the face of Planet E in that Edgar's range in 1998.
Wow. And I mean, 8 is very young to be learning and to be doing things on TV. Already that's good enough for you to need to learn that, okay, we're shooting, yes, you're 8 years old, but we need for you to be confident and outspoken.
Yep. So I think the beauty pageant side of things, because you can't be shy if you're doing beauty pageants. I wasn't forced into it. Also, I enjoyed it. So that really built up my confidence, which is also very strange because even before I switched schools, I was actually bullied at my previous school that I was in. So that took a knock on my confidence from being such a confident person. But what I think being bullied when I was younger just made me a stronger person, you know, not to just shy away from things. Also speak out, be very vocal. So I'd say a number of things happened to then build up the confidence, but I'm still building it up as well.
It's an ongoing process.
It's never a finished product, right? Yeah, so I think I would say that in my childhood, those dynamics sort of helped me with my self-confidence.
So now we're looking at the beginning of Unorthodox, and it doesn't necessarily start as a company that will take in athletes, as you said.
Correct.
You're showing people, listen, you're sleeping on your products. And this is how we can bring more eyes to whatever your service or your product is.
Yes. So with Unorthodox, we started off and still are a corporate public relations company. So we normally dealt with companies and their brand awareness and their reputation management and their crisis management as a company. From that then was the birth of Unorthodox Sport, which is our second subsidiary, where we now worked with individuals. It was different, but also very similar in the sense that athletes are actually companies themselves. So what we actually used to use for companies, we used with athletes as well, and a step further by then sourcing them endorsement deals. So you're right, it started off as something else, but it's expanded into this amazing company with so many opportunities as well to still expand further. Again,
the confidence, Siba, to say we're starting this, we're going into sport. Number one, sport across the board is male dominated.
Correct.
So the confidence to say, I am going to convince Asia Kolisi, but listen, chap, I can take this thing to the next level. Who's your first athlete that you worked with, and how was then the beginning of the division of Unorthodox Sport?
So our first athlete that we actually worked with was Makazole Mapimpi. That was very strange in itself, and that someone I went to school with actually DM'd me on LinkedIn and said, listen, there's a friend of mine, he wants to work on his brand, but he just doesn't know how to do it. And I know that you're in PR, you work with companies, but possibly you could take that service offering and then offer it to this friend of mine. So that was 2020 around March. So we were in lockdown, and we thought we were going to be in lockdown for 14 days. What a joke.
Yeah.
And that was the longest 14 days of our lives.
14 days and 14 nights.
Right, they're more like it. So because there was no sports that was playing at the time, we were then able to, start now this relationship and see. But also with them, as I was with our first client, an Unorthodox PR, I was very transparent to say, I've never done this before, but we can take our PR expertise and see if we can't then use it to help you build your brand. So we were actually both learning on the go, because I would safely say we are probably the first sports company to commercialize an athlete's brand in South Africa.
Sure.
Because it was happening incidentally at the time. They weren't really as proactive.
Was it
with
intentional?
Strategy. Yes, it wasn't intentional. And with strategy that we brought to it. And we eventually formalized it into the sports industry that we have now, the agencies that are around now. So we sowed that seed. I can actually own it and say we sowed that seed in South Africa.
I spoke to Sarah Khumalo, and she said we need to get to a point where you introduce yourself as, my name is Sarah Khumalo and I'm the first Black woman to do ABC.
Correct.
So there you go. Unorthodox. It does, naturally
right?
so.
Like, let me fact check. Was there anyone else doing the same thing around in 2020? But if I don't know if there was a person doing that, it means that their PR wasn't good. So it means that we need to own the fact that we pioneered that industry that we are now in, that is thriving and flourishing.
So those early steps with Umakazole, what did that look like, and how do you then go to the next set of athletes?
So it was just getting to know the person. Managing people is I think tougher than companies. Companies come with a company culture, a company structure, so you already have something to work with. Whereas individuals themselves, they are still trying to figure it out. And at the time, that type of athlete representation wasn't done. So we were both figuring it out. And because, we were in a lockdown, it also helped because he had more time on his hands. I also had the time to then figure out, what do you want, what do you want your brand to be? But most importantly, what do you want to retire to? So all of our athletes that also sign up with us, we start at the end. Should you get injured today and you can't play, or if, by God's grace, you get to retirement, what do you actually want to retire to? What do you want to be known for? So that we work backwards. So with all the endorsement deals that we get them, we always have the end in mind. So after that, I think more athletes saw the work that we were doing with him, because it actually translated really well and very fast as well, because within the same year, we had our very first endorsement deal, I think within 6 months. So then that attracted the attention of his peers, who then wanted to also be signed up to Unorthodox.
Wow.
And that's how it started.
Sure. We'll park it there for part one with our chat with the CEO and founder of Unorthodox Group, Sibabalwe Sesmani, a change maker. And I like to say oftentimes, Siba, that we profile women that when they enter a room, it vibrates because the influence, the impact that they have is out of this world. Next week, when we come back, we'll continue with the story of Sibabalwe and more of the work done by Unorthodox Group, but as well as the challenges that she does come across. So next week we have a date at 12:30 here on SABC2. It's Women in Sport Africa.